wanted to ask you guys have your leading receiver is a tight end, which is a little bit unusual. Last 2 years running. Can you talk about just why the offense has evolved that way, and why he's being featured?
Well, it started last year because George Pickens got hurt, and then we were young at certain spots at receiver, and as the year went on, Brock had kind of established himself as kind of a difference maker, and so and kind of this year kind of the same way, like trying to get the ball to the guys that give us the best chance to win, and he's one of those, just like Darnell and Kenny McIntosh and Ladd are. So probably just works itself out that way. And then this year, A.D. Mitchell got hurt, so sometimes injuries force yourself in that direction, and obviously trust in a given player.
And is Darnell ready to go? Do you know yet?
I anticipate he'll play.
Great. And this is really, this is part of a larger trend offensively. More tight ends are catching passes across college football. Why do you think the game is evolving that way?
I think the game started to evolve. I'll give it just a random 10 years ago when the air raid, and it was probably earlier than that, give it 15 years, but started more when you had air raid Ys, so you have bigger wideouts that learn how to route run. It's one thing to have size, it's another to have ball skills and route running ability. So I think as you see more athletic size players that have skill, I think that becomes an advantage in terms of certain matchups. And when it comes to being able to run the ball and throw the ball and play action, I think that's where your tight ends come in more to play. Teams that are still spread, that's not so much, but teams that utilize the tight ends and condensed sets like us, that they become an integral part of what you do. Yep.
Todd, how would you compare and contrast evaluating quarterbacks at this level versus evaluating them in the NFL when you're trying to bring guys into your programs?
Some of the things are the same. Some of the intangibles that you're looking for. The difference in the NFL, well, first of all, in evaluating any player, including quarterbacks, they haven't done it at your level, unless you're talking about the portal or a free agent, which is kind of what we're talking. If they're a young player out of high school, they haven't played at your level. And if they're, a college player going to the NFL, they haven't played yet at that level. So what you're looking for, a lot of the same things, accuracy, toughness, athleticism, intelligence, arm talent, all of those things that give yourself a chance to win. So a lot of the same characteristics are important. More importantly, having good players around them. That's an important piece.
How do you try and project the high school kids whose offenses might be all over the board in terms of what they do at their high school?
Sure, there's variances of that. The NFL has to deal with the same thing when you're talking about spread offenses compared to not, and what they're going to ask guys to do, like potentially being under center. They've never been under center, or being involved in protections and understanding every aspect of the game plan and run game and those kind of things. So that's a part of it, but I think you continue to see just an evolution of the game. There's more of the high school game that got to college and the college game that's in the NFL in terms of spread. All you got to do is watch the Chiefs and the Dolphins, and you're seeing spread offense, motion shifts, RPOs. So you're seeing a lot of that carries over, because that's what quarterbacks are comfortable with, at least what they've done.
And last one, in terms of your relationship with Stetson, how has that grown both personally and then what you can do on a football field together?
Oh, I think I've said this the last few weeks. I think any relationship builds over time, or it fractures and breaks forever. Either you go your separate ways or you make it work. And we've both done a good job this year of, I think, working towards the same end goal in a lot of ways. I think it's different this year because we went into the year with him being our starter, where last year we didn't. And then when JT came back, it was different times. This year was knowing through the whole off season, once he's coming back, that he was the guy, and building that trust over time. I think that's a big part of it. I think in any relationship, there's a certain amount of trust that you have to have with each other. I think that's big, especially from his end.
Someone like Brock Bowers, do you remember what your closest
No, I remember watching him on film when I first got here. He was different than what I just talked about. He wasn't really an air raid Y. He was more of a running back F, novelty, get the ball to him. That's where you can see some of his special qualities, which is run after catch, and you can get him the ball in a lot of ways. He's a developmental route runner, so that is still where he's working. And you knew he was a hard worker from what you could see, how he played the game, and all the information we got.
Yeah, and does he open up your playbook in a way that maybe you didn't expect? And is it fun having someone that's kind of a Swiss Army knife like that?
There's certain things we didn't expect. We didn't expect him to be as mature as he was a year ago, to count on a true freshman to play like he did, and be as squared away as he is. I think that's probably the biggest thing is, there's a lot of really good players that aren't really ready as freshmen. They're just not. It's just everything's different. So when you get a young player like Brock Bowers, who is mature beyond his years in a lot of ways, it allows him to play earlier and at a high level.
That was just a few years ago. You were running NFL offenses. Your boss was Ted Roden in particular. At that time, could you envision any way you're ending up in this spot right now, coordinating for your second straight potential national title game?
I think you learn in this profession to not look too far ahead. I think when you're younger and you first start off, I think everybody has aspirations of ending up somewhere. All my family's in high school coaching, so I wanted to do it at the college level, and you have aspirations, but a lot of things have to go your way. You have to be around a lot of really good coaches to learn from, a lot of really good players to help you get to where you're at and get lucky. And I've been fortunate in a lot of ways, but I've learned over the years to not really think about what's next, because you don't know that. You don't know. Someone decides they don't want you, you decide you're somewhere else. This profession will humble you. So all you do is the best job you can where you're at, and that's what's expected of you from your boss. I mean, is to do the best job you can at the time. And I wouldn't, if you'd asked me what I have thought 10 years previous to then, that I would have been calling plays with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I would have said no. Or you say, would you anticipate being here and playing for a national championship? Well, no, because there's certain things that you're hopeful for, but all you do is the best job you can, and then you play it out where it ends up.
There's been a sliding doors moment for you since 3-4 years ago. You potentially ended up Aaron Rodgers head coach. I don't know if you looked at that. Do you remember much about that interview or that process?
Well, first off, I'm always humble when someone thinks enough of me. I'm humbled that someone thinks enough of me to interview me for any job. All I've done is what I've ever wanted to do, and that's be involved with football. From a little kid, I've been part of a team since I've been 5. I've been part of a team for 51 years. So that's all you ever want to do, is be part of a team and do the best you can. And so you're humbled. I grew up a Packer fan as a little kid, because I grew up in Chicago, and all my family's Bear fans, and I like to argue, so it worked out perfect. They're all Cub fans, I'm Cardinal fans, so it's just perfect. So to be interviewed by them for any potential possibility was it was an unbelievable experience, and they hired the right guy. Matt LaFleur's done a great job, and so as did the Bengals, as did so it's this is where I was meant to be. I always look at it that way, and so, like I said, be where your feet are and embrace where you're at that moment.
Coach, real fast, your assessment of the 3-3-5 defense for TCU and what you have to do to be successful?
Yeah, it's interesting. When you talk different leagues, it's we don't see a ton of it in our league, and you see a ton of it in the Big 12 when you get film there of that style that Iowa State, I don't know, where it kind of started there. They kind of are the start, and everybody's kind of made it their own. A lot like when someone says air raid, Sure, there's a foundation, and then people have to make it their own in terms of concepts and how you approach practice and do that. And they've done a fantastic job with it. And you can see teams throughout their league have some success with it and have some struggles with it. And like any defense, it's starts with their scheme, and then it starts with their personnel. And they do both extremely well. They're very well coached. They play awfully hard, and they have talented players. You don't get to this point without having that. And so, and there comes a point where I think all of a sudden there's a belief in what they're doing, belief in the head coach, belief in each other, and they play like that. They play with a chip on their shoulder.
What do you have to do to be successful offensively?
Well, I think everybody says, oh yeah, we got to be able to run the football, and they're this 3 down, but I think one coach told me it's like a vacuum. You know, you think it's there, and then they just swarm on you. And sure, there's times you can get some attrition runs. You can run it up in there if you get the right look. But I said it last week, like every week. I mean, one, you can never control the game if you can't run the football. I think TCU would believe that as well. As much spread as they are, they run the football. And then, how can you be explosive? This isn't any different against the 3-3-5 or against what we do. It's exactly what Garrett's going to try to do, and we're going to try. Be able to run the ball and be able to get explosive plays, because it's hard to score if you're not explosive. I mean, you'll probably look at the games TCU had this year. When they were explosive, they scored. When they weren't, it was harder to score. It's the same with us. It's really no different. They got really good coaches. They do a great job what they do. I'm a big fan of that style, what they do. I'm a big fan of the Big 12. I've coached there before. I think what Sonny's done in them is incredible, and we're excited to get to play them. I think it's awesome. I'm going to go back, and I'm getting on a little rant here. I think it's awesome that the playoff committee decided to reward them for winning their league, and they very easily could have gone the other way. And TCU deserved to be here, and I'm excited to play.
That wasn't a lot of yells with Stetson, but he's seemingly seemed to stay right there in the middle. Don't react to it. Don't let it bother you. Did you ever feel like you even needed to kind of reinforce that with him, like say to him, like, hey man, stay the course, or has he kind of just been, hey, he's handling it the right way?
Well, he's a big reason why we're here. I mean, there's no bones about it. I mean, he's played exceptionally well. He's got a great feel for what we want to do. And so he's gotten a lot better. We've gotten better how we do it and how we prepare and prepare him. Sure, like any quarterback, they have their moments. But that's same with me as a play caller. There's moments where you wish you had a play call back, or someone says they'd rather run it than throw it. And that's the same play quarterback, because when you're a decision maker, you're going to be in that position. Doesn't matter. Kirby making certain decisions. As a parent, right? You make decisions. As a business owner, as a play caller, as a quarterback, you're never going to be perfect. And we've grown to trust him a lot more, and he's earned that. And so I think that's a big part of it, but he's a big reason we're where we're at.
To understand that you and Kirby weren't very easy on him for the performance last week. I mean, are there a lot of guys that you kind of gotta, test yourself of how you handle, I guess, assessment?
Well, I think the hardest part is I hate it when I call 70 plays and all of them don't work. Okay, so it's frustrating. The third quarter was frustrating last week to me. Okay, so in our execution and my play calling, I think we all strive to have a player play perfect and do things within the system. And when it doesn't go that way, you're frustrated with yourself. Did I not do a good enough job of explaining certain things that we expect from every player? And, there were moments in the game like that, including myself. So I think I think Stetson's been around us to know that we can say things and yet him still believe that we have his back. Or maybe, a younger player, someone that just got here, that might fracture their confidence. And I don't believe that's the case with Stetson.
Two questions. One, Stetson had his moments, as we all have. What's been in this time with you your favorite moment on the field, off the field, during the week on Saturday? What's been the one that
Favorite moment? Wow, that is a great question. Probably my favorite moment, if you just said football-wise, is the series we had against Alabama last year after he fumbled. And we unloaded on the shots and specials, and he handled it, and we went right down the field and scored. And that says who he is. Not everybody's capable of making a mistake, and then a little bit like last week, the interception led to 21-7, and okay, we battle our way back and get ourselves to where we're actually leading, and then they score before half. I think he has that about him, but that's probably, if you said a moment of in a game, that would be it.
second thing, playing, this is the highest stakes, and yet you have so much less time to prepare. It's almost like a normal week. How does that affect everything that's at stake? Is it helpful that you're back in a routine? How does that affect you?
I guess we'll know in about 2 days because it's hard to know. They have the same issue. They had to travel back from a site like we did. We had probably a little bit longer flight, but it's all the same how we handle the trip and the practices that we have. And like both teams, are you satisfied? Is this it? You're satisfied to just get here? I kind of look at it a little bit from a competitive standpoint. There's times probably in college that when it was finals, I looked at it and said, well, no matter what, it's over. Or are you trying to compete to get the best grade possible? I mean, are you here just for the trip, or are you here to finish this and do something special? Something that team last year did not do. They did not go undefeated. They didn't win the league. And do something that, frankly, is hard with the guys we lost last year. And it's a different team. That's one thing to just always keep reminding yourself is every team's different. And the personnel's different, and trust in your recruiting and the talent that you have. So I think both teams have to deal with, like you said, the schedule. We went a month without playing, and then you go a quick turnaround, and then you're playing again. And so, but they have the same issue we have.
Middle eight section of the game, you guys ran more plays than any team in Power 5 this year. Is that something you guys track and are intentional about, or?
No, it's the first time I've heard it.
Okay. I was just curious if that was.
I'm trying to think of more plays in the middle eight. Maybe because we defer a lot, so that means you're going to get the ball again to start the middle eight. Probably if you looked at it and that's the case, we probably ran less plays in the first quarter than most if you end up deferring. I don't know that per se. It's not like we're trying to go faster. It's not like we're trying to think about that per se. I don't know, sometimes it just works out that way.
Coach, I'm asking around some of the players, what does it mean to represent the SEC at this national level again? And is it preparing you to do that because you're playing the SEC?
Well, I'm going to say, first of all, I think from a player's standpoint, start off representing themselves and their family and the hard work they've put in. And all of our players got to where they're at because they had family that cared about them and raised them the right way and got them on a course, not only athletically but academically, to have success. And that's probably the most awesome thing we get to deal with when you're in college, is seeing young people come from all different backgrounds and as a team work together to strive for one goal. And we also strive to create the best version of our players from an academic standpoint, from a father, from a husband. All of those things are super important. And I think, first of all, I'd hope our players would embrace how far they've come in a lot of ways. Some maybe would have expected to get to this point, and sometimes maybe not. Then I would hope, representing University of Georgia. I would hope that's what they would next. And obviously, we feel like we play in a tremendous football league. And that's been proven in terms of the number of teams that have had a chance to play for the national championship from our league. I do believe good football is good football. I don't believe that's just one league that has, monopoly on it. But I do believe that our best teams have always had a chance to play for a national championship. I think that's probably the best way to put it. Good teams are good teams, bad teams are bad teams. We've had a variety of teams that have had a chance to be able to play for it, and I think that's a credit to the coaching. It's a credit to the area where we're at in terms of football being important. But good football is good football, and TCU is a good football team, irrespective of league.
Todd, I remember last week where you made a point of saying Georgia was the Kirby smart offense. I'm curious, just Kirby comes from the defensive side. How much credit does he deserve for evolving and saying, hey, we need to be explosive offensively to
I don't know if evolving's probably it. I think the game has changed in a lot of ways. So I think you get to a certain point and you realize that I think the rules of the game are changing, which is advantages to the offense in some ways, space players. But when I said that, I didn't mean it per se that it's what Kirby wants to do. What I meant is he's the head coach at Georgia, and wherever I've been, it's been their offense. When I was at Oklahoma State, it was Mike Gundy's offense. Wherever I've been, it's you represent the University of Georgia and Kirby Smart. And what we do is a byproduct of philosophically what I like to do, and then our players that enable us to do what we want to do, and Kirby signing off on it and understanding that we believe this is the best way for us to have success by the way we attack people. Well, I think what I said probably the most about Stetson is that I think he has a rare ability to forget and get up off the mat and continue to compete. I think that's probably his greatest quality, which is not easy. It's not easy for me. It's not easy for most people when things don't go your way and when you've got a lot on your shoulders, throw an interception, fumble the football, make a mistake, because he's always touching the football. I think he has a rare ability to keep battling, and I think it's been impressive.
So, when live here with Channel 2 News, we got here with Coach Monken. Coach, we've been working hard this week. We have a lot of interesting play calling coming up. What are your odds of running a play for number 7?
Not likely.
You heard it here first. Warren Brooks will not touch the ball in the national championship.
You bet, Warren.
You said, he can forget that he has a rare trait of being able to forget the moment that you can think of where he's bounced back, where he's made a mistake.
Well, I talked about two before you got up here. One was, that's okay. No, how would you know? I mean, you don't have to apologize. There's a lot of shit we got to apologize in life for. That wasn't one of them, all right? Last year against Alabama, he fumbles. They get the ball, we hold them to a field goal, thank God, and then we go right down the field. We were explosive, he made a bunch of plays. And then last week he threw a pick and it got 21-7, and we ended up scoring 17 straight points to take a 24-21 lead. That just says who he is. It just says how he's wired. He's wired to forget, believes in himself. He believed in himself even when we didn't. And that's impressive. No. Well, when I got here, he had come back, Justin Fields had left, and Stetson was there. And, we're not any different than most. There's preconceived notions of whatever we see. The way a person looks, the way they carry themselves, a star rating, what someone else says about somebody. We take it as gold. We do it all the time. Well, I won't speak for you guys. I do it all the time. And I'm wrong. And you look to others at times because of those perceptions, and at times you're not always as astute to just look at what the product looks like. And I think that there's a lot of times in life you get taught a valuable lesson, and that's one of them.
So obviously 2 years in a row in this game, I'm curious with the 3 scholarship quarterbacks you have behind Stetson, what is their abilities to keep Georgia, help Georgia get back to the next year?
We're blessed. We're blessed. Those guys are great football players. I'm just fired up they're all going to be here in the spring because we're in a time and place where that doesn't happen. And those guys are really, really talented players. And I'm excited to have them all this spring. Obviously, I'm not worried about that now, but you asked me a direct question as to those players. And they've been very, very supportive of what we do, how we do it, how we coach them, and Stetson.
Todd, is there when you're looking at TCU film, does Johnny Hodges stand out just as an academy guy? I mean, you see qualities like
Well, what you find out is, like our 2 MVPs last week, Stetson Bennett and Bullard, neither one of those guys were, you weren't on everybody's 5-star list. There's good football players everywhere. And he's a good football player. He's tough, he's physical, he's faster than you think, he's got great instincts. So, he plays in their system well. I mean, anybody that plays for a team that's in the national championship has talent.
what does it tell you maybe about just the portal and
That's crazy.
went in for like 3 weeks and didn't even get a sniff from a FCS school, and it was only because Joe Gillespie had seen him in Tulsa.
We all have perceptions. Had he been the same player, been playing for Alabama, I don't know. He might have had, I don't know. We all have it. It's not whatever you want to call it, different perceptions of how someone looks or what place they're at or what ranking they have. And obviously they were right? I mean, obviously they made an astute evaluation, said this guy's good enough,
Like the sheer numbers,
Just look at Stetson. Stetson's was at the Heisman, for God's sakes. He was at Jones Junior College 8 years ago. So, I mean, all you have to do is look at that and say, there is no direct route. And so, congratulations to him. And for TCU, that's, they've got a number of guys like that, where, hey, you got to do a great job evaluating. You got great job of coaching them, great job of putting them in positions where they can be successful. Where do they fit this position, this role? And that's the art of it.
Coach, you mentioned Stetson's journey. What do you think his legacy is at Georgia, win or lose Monday night?
Well, you'll be hard pressed to find someone that loves the University of Georgia more than Stetson Bennett. I think growing up, first of all, we all have dreams. All right, we all have, I want to be the head coach here. I want to be a movie star. I want to fly to the moon. I want to be a fireman, whatever the hell you want to be when you're a kid. And Stetson Bennett wanted to be the quarterback at Georgia. And that is rare, that you get to where whatever that dream might have been, whatever that would have been, and I'm too old to remember what that dream was, but I know what his was. And I think that's awesome.
You mentioned the 3 other quarterbacks in the room, Carson, Brock, and Gunner. What do you think they do really well right now? What are some of the things they need to work on moving into the spring?
Well, I think, first off, you start with Carson. He's been there since I've been there. And then Brock's been there for a year and a half. I think the longer they're with you, have an understanding of expectations, concepts, don't have to learn new things, embracing their role. So they've done a great job. And it's never easy. Everybody wants to play. It's hard to see down the road, all of us. And you try to tell them, Lou Holtz said this to me when I was a GA, and I'm not going to do it in his voice, but I would say that everybody wants to be a chief before they're a really good brave. There's a lot to that. Everybody wants to be the chief before they've done everything else to be a brave, and he's right. And those guys have done a great job of learning how to be great braves and putting themselves in a position to be the chief.
Can you talk about the defenses at Michigan and Ohio State, the last two CFPs, the talent level compared those two? They compare their schemes, the talent level, to the best SEC defenses that you've faced since you've been in Georgia.
Well, I mean, good defense is good defense, and good programs are good programs. And Ohio State has tremendous talent, and they're very well coached. And I always say this, sometimes plays just work, and sometimes they don't. And I think you end up with coming up with your scheme and then fighting your rear end off during the week to get the best looks you can, compete the best you can, hold them to a high standard, and you hope that on Saturday, Sunday, whenever that is that you play, or Monday, that it looks like you want it to look like. And that's probably the biggest thing. Michigan, we played last year, is a really good defense, and they were even better this year. And Ohio State, really good on defense. And TCU, really good on defense. And most of the time, I would say all the time you get here, just like we played Ohio State, we always put up the team's statistical categories. Well, that's not always the case. Like, well, they're really good on offense, and they're really good on defense. That's why you're here, right? TCU's really good on offense. They're really good on defense. That's why they're here. And then we get to go play and figure it out. All right.
Y'all need Todd. He's going to be back over here. Thank you. Gonna bring Dell McGee up.
TCU presents a different and a unique style of defense for us as an offense. They're a 3-3-5, where they have very athletic, rangy defensive ends. They got basically two seniors on the edges. They got one true freshman that's their anchor that has done a tremendous job to come in and play as a true freshman. Then the second level of their defense, their linebackers and their nickel are all veteran guys. They're very fast on the second level. Winters really sticks out as being one of the leaders and one of their defensive players that really you got to know where he is and be aware of where his locations are on the defense. And then on the back end, you got Thomason, the Thorpe winner. Then they got several transfer portal guys that have kind of filled in. They have basically 8 seniors, and then you add those 3 transfer portal guys, and Hodges, I think the outside linebacker, 57 that plays from Navy, that came from Navy, adds to that. So they got a very veteran group. A lot of defensive guys who played a lot of football, and you can see that they've gelled very well. You got to credit Coach Patterson for kind of recruiting those younger guys and that development, but then just Coach Dykes and Coach Gillespie, the DC, implementing their new culture and just getting that buy-in for that defense and just an overall team philosophy. So they present a lot of unique issues that we don't see in our league, and it's been a lot of hard work for our scout team to try to emulate and give us a picture to help us be successful on Monday night, hopefully.
You're one of the few people in this room that goes back to 2016. Anytime there's a new regime, a new coach, new way of doing things, there's some level of resistance or tough transition. What do you remember from that season, the difficulties of that season?
I remember having to get on the bus because a new facility was being built. I remember getting on the bus, having to ride basically 15 to 20 minutes to to a solar panel area where we had practice, having to get off that bus and go back. So you lost a lot of travel time. I also remember when we did have inclement weather, we would try to go down to Flowery Branch and borrow Atlanta's indoor or use the, I think it was the Dome then. So that was a 3-hour just travel trip. So I remember the travel times being very, very hard on our kids and just that structure of practice where you lose out on that consistency.
I know that I spoke to Lorenzo Carter and Jim Blazevich and a few other guys about the practice. He was different than the previous regime. Was that there was some. It wasn't necessarily open rebelling, but there was a little bit of I'm not used to doing things this way. Some guys just never clearly got on board. Mm-hmm. As a coach, can you sort of see that some guys?
I wouldn't necessarily say they didn't get on board. I think Coach Smart had a high standard for us as coaches and our players, and it was our job to create a very fast practice. Coach Smart's very organized. He expects coaches to know exactly where we're going and be ahead of the kids and getting those guys going in the right direction. This program was built on physicality, and I know a lot of our kids refer to Tuesday practice as Bloody Tuesday, which is a very physical practice, but it's not necessarily actual blood. But our strength coaches will do some things to make it more exciting, to get our guys motivated on a Tuesday practice. But there is a lot of good on good where you get a chance to play against basically, best offense, best defense in our conference. So we try to make Tuesdays harder than the game. And I think our kids and coaches have done a great job of buying into that.
And one last thing, with TCU getting in this year, and obviously playoffs eventually expanding to 12 teams, how much more difficult is it going to be for the quote-unquote traditional college football powers to navigate through a postseason every year and almost even establish sort of a dynasty or whatever like Georgia's trying to do?
Well, I don't know about dynasty, but I just know the standard that we have. First goal is always to win the SEC East. Then if you can win the SEC, and then whatever comes out of that normally provides a great opportunity to make the top 4, and you would think the top 12 when the CFP expands that to 12 teams. I do think it will be a challenge. How they're going to determine the venues. If you just think back to this, it was very, very cold where you had all the inclement weather and things of that sort. So I think there are some things that they're going to have to make some decisions on locations and how that progresses. Michael.
So Dell McGee, man, you're a Columbus guy just like myself, So what's it like, coming from Columbus and being on the national stage like that?
Well, you should be able to answer that question better than me. But had a great opportunity to recruit Michael, great family, great kid, great person. I think it's always an honor to be able to put our home city on the map by what we do day in and day out. It's not about this stage. I think it's just our everyday, the way we handle our business. Very fortunate and happy to be in this position for second year in a row, and very happy that you're going to be part of this process where you can add value to the guys that come after you, and you're going to be able to help A.J. Harris and Kelvin Smith, who are also from the Columbus area, understand what it takes to be productive and hopefully make it back here.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Yeah. Hey.
Can you talk about what Dejon brings to the running game, adding to that running back room, and kind of his attributes that complement or add to what you guys already have?
First of all, Dejon's a very hard worker. He's very quiet. All he knows is to grind and say yes sir, no sir. Having Dejon is a very refreshing because you don't see guys like that just doesn't complain about anything, whether it's carries, whether it's playing on special teams and having to go back in. And that's what's very, very unique about Dejan. Has a great feel for running the football, inside and outside of tackles. He has a receiving ability where we trust him in the pass game, and he's also sturdy enough to be able to pick up blitzes when that occurs. So I think Dejan's a complete back, and we're very fortunate to have him.
In your running back room, obviously they kind of complement each other. How important is that, especially against a team like TCU, to be able to put guys in there and not have to worry about, we have to go to Kenny here, we have to go to Dejan here. They all can kind of do different things, but like you said, the trust that you have in all. How important is that to make a title run like you guys are?
I think it's important, just the depth that we have. We've had a couple of injuries that we've kind of had to withstand, and we have a next man up mentality, and I think our guys have really stepped up. When guys have went down, in particular Kendall went down, and Branson had to play a little bit more than expected early on in the season. And just like you say, we got to make sure anyone that's on the trip is prepared, because our standard is it doesn't matter if you're old enough, you're good enough, and next man up mentality. But all three of those guys are going to be instrumental in us being successful on Monday night. And it's not just running the football, it's going to be playing special teams and adding value there, because TCU does an outstanding job in their teams. And just like I mentioned previously, their style of defense is very unique. They fly around to the ball, and they're gang tacklers. So trying to keep our guys fresh is the goal.
Last question, the experience factor. How much do you think that's going to play Monday night? Obviously, Georgia's been in big games. A lot of the players have been in these moments before, whether they were starting or not. They've experienced this. How big of a role is that going to play Monday night?
I think both teams have experience, because we're at week 15, so I don't think the moment's going to be too high for either team. So I don't think either team has an advantage. I think other than running out of tunnel playing in SoFi, and I think both teams have practiced and will practice there and kind of get that out of the way. But after that first whistle blows, the first kickoff or kickoff return, it's just playing football. No, I didn't see that. Appreciate it. Sick, yo. So, hey, you doing all right?
Just curious, how is this different than last year? Obviously, you guys went in 17, came back in 21, well, I guess 22. Now we're here in 23. But is there? Obviously, there's always pressure with a game like this, but having that 41-year gap erased, is there a deeper kind of sense of belief, or what's the vibe of it?
I just think this team has a different mindset. They want to do something different this year, and right now they've put themselves in a position to be different than even last year's team. There was a lot of talk and outside noise about how many NFL draft picks we had, and I think those guys, our players, took that upon themselves to make it a benefit, and you could kind of see the growth and the maturity of our entire team as the season progressed, and you can't say enough about that leadership and maturation process to be in this position.
You talked a little bit about how you guys lost a lot of players last season to the draft and the transfer portal. What was the tactic for recruiting and bringing in new players to fill that void?
It's always to bring in the best student athlete we can that we feel like can be successful in the classroom as well as on the football field. That just goes back to Coach Smart's recruiting philosophy. We want to make sure we get the right kid that fits the mode of what represents Georgia football. I really don't look at it where we lost kids to the portal. I do think the kids that were in our program, they got a chance to learn a lot from the older guys, and I just think when you can have good leadership and the younger guys buy into that leadership and they understand that they're going to be in those roles the following years, and they're able to kind of make the team their own and create their own identity and voice. I think that showed up more than, and so it's just a very good compliment to those guys that have embraced this year's team.
One of those players I've noticed is Malachi. How has he been able to make a difference on the field and also in the locker room?
Malachi's just a great young man. I think having older veteran guys around him, Dan Jackson and Chris Smith, he was able to lean on those veterans to get through, a little bit of the freshman jitters. We're in week 15, so now he's not really considered a true freshman anymore. He's played a lot of football, and I think he has confidence in his abilities, and hopefully they'll show up on Monday night.
How would you describe Malachi as a person off the field?
He's a very humble kid. I think he's a great teammate. He says hello to everyone in the organization. He's a very likable person, smiling. He can joke around, so I think he has a lot of versatility to him. He's actually, one of the young guys that will be a leader moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, what do you think about bowl season this year? The number of games, the number of crazy matchups that's happened this year. TCU being this game, you guys being steady and being able to get here and stay here. What does that say about just college football for this season?
I really hadn't even watched bowl games, to be honest with you. We've been
figured.
doing so much
Yeah.
with, so I hadn't really paid attention. I just think it's different now. If you're not in the Final Four or in that playoff hunt, I think the teams that are playing in bowls, they're not their true team. So the wins and losses with conferences, I don't think it's a direct reflection of what it would really look like. Because you got the kids that opt out, kids that decide not to play because they're going to go into the NFL draft, so you're not getting that full complement or that exact team that you could have saw. So it's, I think adding more teams to the playoff will help college football and keep the portal issues down and kind of under the weather. So
We don't want to get into a conversation about the portal.
man, that thing is rough.
Yeah.
What's up, Warren?
Where are you going to go when this is all done this year? Where's the vacation? First spot lined up?
I hadn't even decided yet. I hadn't even decided. So
12 minutes, coach.
How long have y'all always done it like this, where you do your 30 minutes?
No,
What made?
it's like whenever, like co-offensive coordinator kind of thing, co-defensive coordinators, Did it with Clemson, Tony Scott or Tony Elliott.
Oh gosh.
Can't remember the other one.
Because it wasn't like that in Indy last year.
What was that?
It wasn't like that in Indianapolis.
No, you were doing Zoom last year.
Zoom.
We
It
didn't-
was
we
it
didn't have
COVID?
we didn't have media day.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's-
Since New Orleans was the last time we had it. Yeah.
I got you. That makes sense. Oh, y'all think this is quick?
You're only up here 30 minutes.
No, I'm not saying that. I mean, Coach Marvin them there for an hour.
It's better than the preseason one.
Yeah, you got a point there. Hmm.
Depends on the questions they ask.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Who did?
Garrett Riley, Lincoln's younger brother. There's a bunch of questions about Lincoln. Yeah. Now he went an hour and 3 minutes straight. Basically talking about Lincoln.
Seen last week.
I didn't see you last week, actually.
I'm here with. Can I call you Dell, Coach?
No.
I'm here with Coach McGee. It's Bricks in here too, and Coach McGee. Freshman year, you called the run and play to Jalen Carter in the Tennessee game, you scored a touchdown. Do you think I put the time in? Do I have the ability to run in the touchdown? We throw that heavy back shit. Do you think I'll ever have the shot to do it? Would you ever call a 97 dive?
Well, first off, it was a pass play to Jalen. He didn't actually run the ball
I want to
in.
be different, Coach, so I have to run the ball.
If you
I want to be a running back, not a receiver.
if you put in the work, we may think about it. How about that?
I can agree with that. There might be a slight chance you see number 97 crossing the edges.
I think you'd be better suited to play tight end, though.
A blocking tight end, I'll do anything that helps the team win. I was on that for 2 practices. They took me off. Why?
Someone performed better.
So Oscar last week took my job. We're going to end it there. Thank you, Coach Williams.
All right, Warren. You got a great career, man.
Dell, where'd you play college ball?
Played at Auburn. Played at Auburn. 91 to 95.
Always been just living in the South?
Actually, I lived out here. I played in XFL the 1 year it lasted out here. Played for the LA Extreme with Al Luganbill was the head coach at that time. 2001. Lived in Long Beach. Very expensive back then too.
Especially on the XFL salary.
Yeah. Actually, we had 4 roommates and in a 2-bedroom. It was still like $3,500 or something, if I remember correctly. So, and we should alternate who slept in the bedroom. So, yep. The things you do.
Probably wouldn't go back and change it though, would you?
Nah, can't change that. All I can do is learn from their past experiences and just move forward. Where are you from originally?
So I work for the Mountain West Conference right now.
Okay.
I'm from Colorado.
Okay.
Spend any time out there?
No, I hadn't.
It's a great place to live.
Yeah. You know, lived in Arizona. Got drafted by the Cardinals in '96, so I was there for 3 years.
That's where I'm from. I live in Arizona.
But, okay, what part?
Chandler.
Oh yeah, I stayed in Ahwatukee. Yep.
Right next to each other.
Yep. No, I was very. I liked Arizona.
Larry Fitzgerald lives. Well, he has a house in Ahwatukee. I don't know if he lives there anymore.
Oh.
But up in the mountain, up the hills there.
Okay. Yeah. No, I liked Arizona. Really, I went back for the first time this past summer.
Oh, really?
Had like a little coaching small convention there this summer. Stayed in what's this? Scottsdale.
Yeah.
The that Camelback, I think where that golf resort.
Yeah.
So that was
Yep.
it's grown.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It takes
It
you an
really,
hour and a
really
half.
was.
You can go an hour
Ladies
and a
and
half.
gentlemen, 5 minutes are remaining in the Georgia media session.
No problem.
5
Ralph
minutes
Russo
are
from the
remaining.
Associated Press. Nice
All
to
right.
meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I know you got
Fans, don't forget to join us all weekend for Playoff Fan Central. Playoff Fan Central.
I am from Georgia. Coached high school ball in Georgia. Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure I didn't.
Yep.
What I'm interested to ask you about is, listen, Georgia's always produced great football players. It does seem like over the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, as those suburbs have developed, it's maybe gotten even better, the football talent in Georgia. What do you look at when you see sort of the development of football talent in Georgia, high school talent? Again, not that it hasn't been good, but it does seem like it's sort of gone to another level in the last maybe 10, 15 years.
Yeah, well, I would say that the Little League and Pop Warner programs are very effective, and it kind of stems from that. I also think that the high school coaches in the state of Georgia do a tremendous job of implementing an exact system like colleges. When you talk about the structure of practice, their off seasons, summer conditioning, they just do a tremendous job of preparing student athletes for high school, which are very attractive to a lot of college recruiters from all across the nation. Georgia's a hotbed. If you look at the statistics of NFL players that come out of the state of Georgia, I would say per capita, you're probably talking about the number one state when you're talking about NFL readiness.
I'll follow this. So in some ways, it's like, well, hey man, those kids all want to grow up going to Georgia. What a great benefit to the University of Georgia. But there's a great airport in Atlanta. Everybody can get to Georgia. I mean, give me the balance there of like, hey, we're fending off a lot of people, but they also are in your backyard. A lot of them kids have an attachment. So what's the dynamic of sort of like those recruiting battles?
I would just say that when you mention the Atlanta airport, and when kids from a distance that's not in your 5-hour radius that has to get on a flight and they want to go visit, Alabama, Auburn, Clemson, Tennessee, Florida, you're able to attract those guys to come to your campus. I also think that so many of the camps, whether it's Rivals, where they have those camps in Atlanta, and they're getting kids nationally to come in, you're always trying to get those kids to stop by your university as well. So I just think the off-season events gains and adds exposure to our program, and it allows the interest level for them to come and visit us.
So having national kids kind of be in Georgia's backyard, that does sort of help as far as you identifying what national. When I say national, it's Brock, guys like that. That helps.
Well, I would say that was a recruiting piece, identification. It doesn't matter what state a student athlete lives in. We got a criteria that we go by. If they fit that criteria, then we're going to recruit our position, not just in our state, but nationally.
But it helps have a pretty nice state. Does it make it a little, I shouldn't say easier?
Well, it doesn't make it easier. I mean, when you're going out of state, you're really identifying someone that fits the standard and the mold that you want to bring into your program. So going out of state is a great deal, and it just shows that Coach Smart's willing to take kids outside that 5-hour radius.
Thanks, Todd. Thank you, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, talk to me a little bit about the transition from analyst at Auburn to getting the job at.
Ladies and gentlemen, there is 1 minute remaining in the Georgia media session. 1 minute remaining.
What are the biggest steps that you think that helped you transition?
Well, I'll first off say just being a high school coach, I was able to have Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, Pete Carroll come recruit kids, and I got a chance to see those guys sales pitches. I saw what I liked, saw what I didn't like. I saw who was genuine, who was kind of feeding the kids BS. So that helped me in my recruiting now, and I kind of use some of the things. But more importantly, I just think you got to be genuine. Did learn a lot at Auburn. Got to give a lot of thanks to Gus for giving me the opportunity to enter the college realm. And recruiting has changed so much now just because of the transfer portal, NIL. So there's just added, I wouldn't say pressure, but just different variables out there that certain kids are going to flock to, and you just got to identify the right student athlete that's not about NIL necessarily, but it is important. And I know we're very competitive when it comes to that. And you got to want to play at Georgia to be at Georgia.
Today's media day. For those members of the media who took transportation from the media hotel, departures will begin shortly in the same location as drop-off.
Just shows his relentlessness, the way he keeps and upholds his coaches to a high standard. It's a credit to every member in our organization, and it's a very surreal opportunity. Very fortunate to be in this position. I think it goes to show the leadership of our team now that they were able to embrace this opportunity and try to create their own identity and trying to do something different.
Good stuff there, Georgia.
Thank you.